Thank you for joining us here on KARE News Now. I'm Jason Hackett. Let's get to your headlines. Happening right now, the clock is ticking for schools across the country to cut their diversity, equity, and inclusion plans or risk losing federal funding. The U.S. Department of Education says it will start looking for compliance as soon as the clock strikes midnight tonight. The Department of Education launching ndei.ed.gov, where families can report, quote, concerning practice that could lead to investigations. Schools from pre-K to college are being asked to end, quote, race preferences and stereotypes in the Department of Education's words. That goes for admissions, hiring, scholarships, prizes, and more. If they don't, the schools risk losing federal funding. Some confusion across the country this morning as today could be the final workday for many federal workers. According to a source in the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the agency could fire more workers today after reported letting go of hundreds yesterday. And today could be the final day for federal workers that took deferred resignations earlier this month. According to the White House, 77,000 federal workers accepted that buyout offer. This all comes as a federal judge overnight ordered the Office of Personnel Management to pull back its memo calling for agencies to fire thousands of probationary workers. The judge called the move illegal, saying the Office of Personnel Management doesn't have the authority to hire and fire employees within another agency. The order does not reinstate the probationary workers that have already been let go. A huge day for our nation's capital as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky visits Washington to work out a deal for U.S. protection and hopefully an end to its war with Russia. Now, in exchange for that protection, the U.S. would get access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals. Alice Barr is in D.C. with details.
Hi there. Today could mark a turning point 3 years after Russia invaded Ukraine. I spoke with a Ukrainian human rights lawyer who says no one wants peace more than her people, but that it can only come through strength against Russian President Vladimir Putin. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky coming to the White House today as President Trump presses for a deal to end Russia's war on Ukraine.
We're working very hard to get that war brought to an end.
Talking peace plans with the UK Prime Minister on Thursday.
It'll either be fairly soon or it won't be at all.
It can't be peace that rewards the aggressor.
European allies have been working to bring Ukraine's needs to the forefront in negotiations that began with Russia first.
We're discussing our future. We're discussing our home.
Oleksandra Matviichuk, a Nobel Peace Prize-winning Ukrainian human rights lawyer, has been advocating for her country in Washington while documenting Russian war crimes and centering Ukrainian suffering.
We don't hear about people.
She says a lasting peace can only come through allies promising security guarantees to check Russian leader Vladimir Putin.
Not to live under constant threat that tomorrow Russia will start bombarding massively Ukrainian cities again.
President Zelensky is expected to sign an agreement today to share revenue from Ukrainian rare earth minerals with the U.S. in exchange for some form of security guarantees, though President Trump has said he wants Europe to take the lead. The president alarmed allies by falsely suggesting Ukraine started the war, claims President Zelensky called out as Russian disinformation, leading President Trump to call the democratically elected Zelensky a dictator.
Did I say that? I can't believe I said that. Next question.
A key test today of where a critical relationship and the future of Ukraine is headed. The UK Prime Minister said Europe would step up to limit future Russian aggression at its doorstep, and he committed to putting British boots on the ground and planes in the sky to support peace in Ukraine. In Washington, I'm Alice Barr. Back to you.
Now, President Trump is threatening to double tariffs on China this morning, according to this Truth Social post in the last 24 hours. Adding tariffs on Mexico and Canada, currently on hold, will go into effect at the same time. Now, those would start at 25%. He said China's tariffs will go from 10 to 20%. The administration believes import taxes will force other countries to crack down on illicit drug trafficking. Both these changes going into effect this Tuesday could result in higher prices for consumers. That's according to economists.
If on Tuesday there are unjustified tariffs brought in on Canada, we will have an immediate and extremely strong response, as Canadians expect.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is responding to the tariffs. He says Canada didn't want a trade war with its neighbor, but will respond if it has to. Trudeau says Canada will continue to do everything necessary to avoid the tariffs from happening. New details this morning on the investigation into actor Gene Hackman's death. While authorities say there are no obvious signs of foul play, detectives are calling the circumstances around the death of the 95-year-old actor and his wife suspicious. Liz Kreutz has the new details from investigators.
This morning, authorities in Santa Fe revealing new details on the death of legendary actor Gene Hackman and his wife of 34 years, Betsy Arakawa. The sheriff says there's no immediate indication of a crime, but admits it's too soon to rule anything out.
There was no immediate sign of foul play. This is an investigation, so we're keeping everything on the table.
Authorities later saying an autopsy was performed and initial findings noted no external trauma to either Hackman or Arakawa, but the cause of death hasn't been determined and official results are still to come. The couple's bodies were found Wednesday afternoon, a maintenance worker calling 911 after seeing them through a window.
Are they moving at all?
No, dude, they're not moving. Just send somebody out here really quick.
In a search warrant affidavit, a detective called the deaths suspicious, writing the front door of the residence was found unsecured and opened. The body of Hackman's 65-year-old wife, Betsy Arakawa, was inside a bathroom, according to deputies, with a space heater nearby and an open prescription pill bottle on the counter.
All I can say is they have been deceased for quite a while.
Hackman's body was found in a mudroom. Deputies say it appears he had suddenly fallen with a pair of sunglasses near his body. The couple's German Shepherd found dead, according to the sheriff.
A dog that was in a kennel that was also found deceased.
While their two other dogs were found alive on the property. Neither the fire department nor the gas company found any signs of a gas leak. Meanwhile, tributes are pouring in for the two-time Academy Award winner. Clint Eastwood, Hackman's co-star and director of Unforgiven, writing, "There was no finer actor than Gene. He was also a dear friend whom I'll miss very much." And Bill Murray, who co-starred with Hackman in The Royal Tenenbaums, speaking out.
Guy was really, really good. So goodbye, Gene. I hope you're well wherever you are.
Right now in Greece, thousands are taking to the streets demanding justice on the second anniversary of the deadliest train crash ever in the country. Take a look at this video here. This crash involving a head-on collision between a passenger and freight train threw Greece's railway safety into question. 57 people died in that crash and dozens more were injured. Families of the victims are accusing the government of suppressing evidence in the crash, claiming no forensic team documented the crash before the site was cleared of debris. Government officials argue the debris was cleared so quickly so the railway could get back up and running as soon as possible. Another twist here for George Floyd Square in South Minneapolis, as Minneapolis City Council brings the idea to close the intersection of 38th and Chicago back into play. Raya Katene has all the details.
I'm Raya Katene. The battle over the future of George Floyd Square is taking yet another turn. The Minneapolis City Council's once again proposing closing the intersection at 38th and Chicago to traffic in order to build a pedestrian plaza. Mayor Jacob Frey vetoed that plan earlier this month, but 9 council members just voted to override Frey's decision. Frey says closing the area to traffic is not something that business owners and neighbors want. This May will mark 5 years since the murder of George Floyd, and the back and forth between City Council and the mayor's office is putting local businesses and neighbors in the crosshairs. The city says council's vote delays construction until at least 2026.
Well, the Timberwolves are on the road once again, getting ready to take on the Utah Jazz. But tonight they'll likely have to face them without their star player. Anthony Edwards picked up his 16th technical foul of the season during last night's game against the Lakers. He could also get a fine after throwing the ball into the stands after being ejected. NBA rules state a player receives a 1-game suspension after 16 technical fouls. The Wolves lost to the Lakers 111-102. Tonight's game in Utah tips off at 8:30. Well, it's a tale of two seasons right now in Minnesota. Ski hills and winter activities are winding down as golf courses are ramping up. Audrey Russo is here with how businesses are taking advantage.
It's day 2 of the golf season here at Stonebrook in Shakopee. This is one of the few golf courses in the state that's currently open to both walkers and carts. Now there's a couple more coming online today, but it just goes to show how early the golf season can start here in Minnesota. The golf operations manager sent me these videos from Thursday. He says he's already seen some true winter warriors wearing ski masks and mittens. He tells me they had about 3 to 4 days notice that their season was starting this week. So that was an all hands on deck situation, shoveling the cart paths, salting the walks, making sure the tee boxes were clear. But the most important factor in determining whether or not a golf course is ready for prime time is actually the soil.
Are you going to break your wrist if you take a divot on the frozen ground? That top 3 to 4 inches, once it gets thawed enough that you could take a nice divot out on a swing and not hurt yourself or hurt your clubs.
Now, on the other hand, ski hills and tubing spots are winding down. In the last 24 hours, Buck Hill in Burnsville posted on social media that their Northern Lights tubing event is coming to an end this weekend. They're also starting to encourage people to think about buying passes for next season. Back to you.
Well, make sure you stick around. More news and weather coming up on KARE News Now.